Okay.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be going over the item number here, increase efficiencies, productivity, and quality. This is Ray Anderson of the 3 Consulting Amigos. I'll be delivering some information today on how you as a small business can access free money to train and develop your skills, which will obviously help your frontline workers be more effective in what they do. So having said that, I'm going to let Ron introduce himself and Ed, and then we'll get started with the presentation.
My name is Ron Burgess. I've been in small business for a bunch of decades, actually, and been a manager for about 5 decades. And so started several businesses, but I'm currently semi-retired and spending most of my efforts on Microgiants, which is a mentoring and advocacy group for young entrepreneurs.
Hi, my name is Ed Lasek, and I am the principal of Strategic Business Solutions and have a website called dreambigexit.com. And I have 35 years of experience that I'd like to share with businesses related to sitting in the seat as a CFO, COO, treasurer, and CPA. And I focus on helping businesses and business owners optimize their businesses and prepare for their exit.
Before I get started, Ed, we've got the 8 drivers up there. You might explain that briefly because this is your model, and I think it's an effective way of helping our clients better understand what they need to be doing as they move forward.
Yes, one of the 4 steps of developing an exit strategy, an exit plan, is to optimize the business. And you want to optimize the results of the business for several reasons. Number one, businesses are sold on a multiple of cash flow. So obviously the more money you're making, the higher the price is going to be. And as you become more and more effective in your model, and can articulate why your business is better than your competitors, then you can also get the impact of a better multiple, which really dramatically changes the price of your business. So focusing on these 8 drivers is extremely important. And today we are going to dive into the 4th one listed there, and it's related to increasing productivity and improving your expense structure in your company. And Ray Anderson has some great experience in this field, in this area, by making sure that what's going on the front line is consistent to what's going on at the top of the organization. And I really want to make a note that this particular driver is extremely important because every dollar that you can save in your operation by being more efficient, it goes directly to the bottom line. And that is a profound impact related to this strategy. And that's why this driver here is extremely important to pay a lot of attention to. And one way of doing that is by having trained employees doing what they're supposed to be doing and looking for better ways of doing that. And I'm going to pass it along to Ray. And I tell you, I've been very impressed with the results that Ray has achieved when we work together on assignments. And it really brings the total engagement of the corporation significantly up this scale of productivity. So Ray, I'm passing it along to you, young man. Give us an overview.
Thank you. Well, this is an area of expertise that I've had for some time, so I'm going to explain a little bit. California has what they describe as the Employment Training Panel, ETP, and the goals for the Employment Training Panel are quite specific. Basically, they're trying to help small manufacturing business in principle, reduce their labor and production costs and get them involved. The second thing is they want to provide technical training that supports new equipment, processes, systems, etc. And then finally, what they're really hoping to do is improve teamwork and communication skills to increase billable hours and reduce cycle time. And all those things are tied in very, very nicely with the 8 drivers And ETP is here specifically to help those of us who are in this field to try to move ahead. The reason they do this is they're trying to make California businesses more competitive in both national and global markets. So they encourage the industry to invest in training and human resource development. The reason is that if you're looking at manufacturing, they estimate that for every dollar invested in training and manufacturing, it returns about $4 to the economy, either through ancillary services, restaurants, whatever it is, because manufacturing jobs are so important to what really drives the California economy, even in this tough time we have when things are expensive here in California. Here are the reasons that you want to do this. What we believe is that it helps you create a no-collar workforce. And as you look from left to right, your current workforce has solutions to 90% of your day-to-day problems. However, they don't know exactly how to connect with them in a way that is meaningful to you or to your management or to your business. We can get you up to $1,000 to align their behavior with your own organizational goals, which is what you have them there for. Third, it lets you help transform the business like it has for other clients. And over the past 30 years, I've gotten clients roughly $3 million, and I've probably retrained with their help and the help of other associates somewhere around 3,000 employees. And basically, we'll help you find it if you're qualified at no cost. So basically, there's no cost for you to do this, and we're going to show you how you can get access to it actually within days. So having said that, let me move to the next slide. Any questions before I go any further?
Yeah, Ray, can you clarify, get up to $1,000? That's probably per employee, isn't it?
That's per employee.
Yeah, very good.
And so the point is that it's huge, particularly when we know that most of the clients that we're working with, are really cash starved. So if you can somehow find a way to offset the cost of this training, it becomes meaningful. And then, of course, you have to figure out, well, what are you going to train the guys? So we're going to look at that too. Eligibility requirements. Everyone understands how the vision applies to them. Everyone knows how to execute the vision in their role and function. And everyone is encouraged to ask questions, to express their concern. This slide is not exactly where I wanted to go. So bear with me 1 second. For you to be able to apply for this, your employees have to work at least 35 hours a week, and you have to keep them on the payroll at least 90 days beyond the completion of their individual training. And the final thing is that your turnover has to be less than 20% in any full-time year. So knowing that, that'll kind of give you some insights. Now, the thing that kind of surprises people, here, the minimum hourly wage here in San Bernardino and Riverside County is $18.34 an hour. For some people, they're saying, wow, that's high. There's also a secondary part of this called high unemployment areas. And in the cities that have can apply for having at least 25% of the unemployment of the state, they get a reduction. So one of the benefits of this is they get health benefits. So if they're paying health costs, they get $2.50 an hour, which means that they can literally have people qualify for as little as $15.84. The problem that my experience has been that sometimes this is prohibitive. Here in Southern California, manufacturing paying $15.84 an hour is on the high end. And so as a consequence, sometimes that can be a challenge. We're going to talk a little bit about how they can get around that and how they can make that work for them, even if they don't necessarily have more than a few employees who qualify at that level. The priority businesses that they talk about here is important: manufacturing, healthcare, biotech, construction, agriculture, goods movement, publishing, professional scientific services. So it's very broad. The other things that will help you is destination resorts, distribution, mortgage banking, and then sometimes you can get approval for companies or things that may not necessarily be included in their high priorities. And companies with 25% of the revenue generated out of state are also eligible. So what kind of training can you provide? Management skills, manufacturing skills, literacy. So vocational English as a second language, basic math, and other titles. In addition, there are these that you can do: advanced training, business skills, commercial skills, computer skills, except Microsoft Office, because everybody figures that Microsoft Office has been embedded in our culture now for 30 years. People should have that skill already. Um, Now, here, this is important because basically there are two ways in which to access the money. One is through what we call a single employer contract. And what I'm going to focus on here is what's defined as a multiple employer contract. And what that simply means is that you have community colleges in the area, Intech, which comes out of Chaffey College, and San Bernardino Valley College and the Riverside Community College all offer free training because they get reimbursed by ETP to do the training. So you're going to be able to find training available in on a variety of different topics just by reaching out to one of these community colleges and saying, hey, I have some people I want to train. So I'll go into a little more detail on that. These are the things I've already talked about. These, bear with me one second here while I slide forward. One of the benefits of a multiple employer contract with a community college is that you can start immediately. If you walk in the door and you say, hey, look, I need training, and as long as you have somewhere between 10 and 12 people in a classroom, they can start within a week of your doing that. It's only about $150 to make the investment. They can train in other locations. So as an example, if a client is really interested in sending one person through, let's say, welding training, they can send them to Intech or San Bernardino Valley College, and that person can go through that training and be trained on the job. There are no development or administration costs, which are really helpful to the client. And they specialize in long term, such as welding, as I said, AutoCAD, or supervisory skills, which you can train one at a time. So you don't have to send a whole bunch of people. And what my experience has been, when you're dealing with these small manufacturing, you can't take a whole group of people out for 4 to 8 hours, because when you do that, and I say 4 to 8 hours, because basically you're now talking about 10 to 20% of the week, and a small manufacturing company cannot afford that. But they can't afford to send one person through a training and thereby get the benefit of that training without having to really impact negatively their production requirements. If you want to do an entire class, that becomes a bit more of a problem because you'll have to have at least 10 people in it. So this is limited to probably companies that I would say have over 50 employees. You know, if you only have less than 25 or you're in that neighborhood, then my recommendation is you send people through one at a time. Now, the challenge that you have, if you stop training and you've got somebody in it, they can charge you for the full amount of what the training costs them. So you have to be careful and committed to what you want to do. You have to meet their schedule. So in other words, if they're doing training and they're going to be offering it from 6 to 9 p.m. in the evening, you have to go with their training. You can't use your own. And as a consequence of that, sometimes that can be a burden for production requirements, particularly if they're offering the class during the day and you need to have that person or those people available to you in production at that time. Before I go any further, any questions? Because this is fairly new to you guys as well.
Ray, I have one question right off the bat, and maybe you can articulate some facts to this, but this is low-hanging fruit for running an operation and making things better. Why aren't more businesses using this great advantage that's being provided in the state of California?
Here's been my experience. First of all, when you walk in and say, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, that's a strike against you that can be hard to overcome. So that's one of the challenges. The other thing is they're wondering, well, where's the money coming from? And I hope I should have a slide that explains basically when a person looks at their payroll stub, when you're doing their payroll, there's a small tax that's called the ETT. It's the employment training tax. And it's literally 0.1% that's pulled out of everybody's unemployment insurance fund and set aside in this fund on an annual basis. That generates, it's hard to believe, but in a good year in California, it'll generate $80 million worth of fund that sits there. And the only way to access is through one of these multiple employer contracts, or as I've done for my clients, to be able to go directly to them and say, look, we want to train our own staff internally. and then you can apply for a contract. The benefit of the multiple employer contract, which you're showing you here, is that it doesn't require any slowdown. You can begin immediately because the colleges already have the classes intact, and all they're looking for is people to attend them. So that's a benefit. Does that help, Ed, if I explained it?
But I also think there's a real problem in the business community where the trusted advisors do not understand these programs and are not in a position to advise their clients accordingly. And so that's a thing. I don't know how they're ever going to change that, but that's really important. Trusted advisors ought to be promoting these programs to their clients because it'll help them make more money.
Right.
Well,
Absolutely.
I think I've known Ray, I don't know, 15 years or longer, 20 maybe. And I had never heard of anything like this until I met Ray. So, you know, I think you're absolutely right, Ed. Nobody knows anything about this. It's one of the big secrets, I think. Another one of the secret government programs almost. And despite the fact that community colleges all have ETP people out selling this stuff. So there's a lot of direct selling to companies, but advisors don't seem to get in the loop somehow. I doubt if that's intentional, but for whatever reasons, they don't know much about it. Attorneys wouldn't care too much about it. CPAs, you would certainly expect that CPAs will care a lot about it because this means money going into, you know, most businesses.
Well, this has been my experience, and I appreciate your kind of bringing it up. Basically, in 2000, I worked closely with ETP directly because one of the challenges they were facing is that most of the money was going to large corporations in California. They were taking anywhere from $10 to $20 million out of this fund because they understood it. They had internal resource to make it happen, and they could put it together. So we began what we call the small business unit, which had a premium in terms of paying. It paid roughly 15% more to a business with under 100 employees than somebody with over 100 employees. But when we initially started, there were very few companies that were doing this. So to Ron's point, you know, part of my job was to go out there and invite these smaller companies to take a look at this to see whether it could help them. And that's where I was able to raise about $3 million for these small clients to be able to help them move forward with this ETP process.
Well, this is one of the benefits we always provide clients by educating them on these opportunities. And a couple of my clients just last year took advantage of this. And in most situations, like 20% of their profit came from getting reimbursed for their training.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, and Ed, you and I both know a couple of the clients who, once they get into it, they just keep doing it over and over again. And basically, you can dip into this pool up to about $300,000. So basically, with a small manufacturing company or a construction company, you know, they'll only take maybe 20,000 per time. So as a consequence, once they get into it, they can keep doing it over and over again.
It's a no-lose situation. You make them. You get a check from the state of California for the training,
Yes.
and
For money you've already put in.
And most importantly, your operation improves significantly by the training that you're providing.
Yeah, exactly. And it, you know, and the truth is that, you know, even though the people who are actually receiving the training have no idea that it's being reimbursed, it simply means to them, they feel like, holy mackerel, they like us, they're training us, they're helping us develop. And that in itself is a plus that we don't even think about.
It is a good program. It's unfortunate that very small companies can't really access it. And here you got what, 50% of the small businesses are under 5 people or something like that, and they're all having this deduction come out of their payroll. Isn't that right?
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
They have no way to get it back. And so as a Micro Giants small business advocate, I just thought it would be important to, you know, let everybody understand that this is another case where very small businesses are discriminated against, and the money that is taken from them is going to larger businesses.
Well, and again, to put a sharper point on this, Ron, you know, basically any one of those 5 employee companies could send somebody to one of these trainings for either Intech or Chaffee College or San Bernardino Valley College or Norco College, because basically if they're eligible, they can go and they can be reimbursed at no cost.
Yeah. So it is available. It's just kind of hard to figure out how to do it because
Yes.
you don't have someone like you coming in walking them through it. And that's the biggest concern that I've heard from small clients is, nobody will come and talk to me and walk me through this. I don't even have the foggiest notion what it is. And it has
Yes.
to be a certain size in order to make it worth people's time to do that. So, I've had
Yeah.
several companies of, 5 or 6 people who have expressed an interest, but we haven't been able to get it to work.
And that's a very good point. I think, what we might want to do is we can do a Zoom meeting with several clients to help them understand. As an example, because I've worked closely with Chafee and I've worked closely with San Bernardino Valley College, they don't have the resource to go out and market this as effectively as they'd like. In fact, when you and I were working with Sabeta, part of the thing we did is we did the marketing for them, simply
Well,
because, they didn't have the internal resources. As a consequence, we were able to reach out to probably 80 companies, many of which made decisions and got into ETP when they were large enough. What I think we could have done more effectively, Ron, we could have put several people into Intech or into San Bernardino Valley College at that time. And so this gives us an opportunity to go out there and reach more people.
yeah, yeah.
So here's an example. Up to, if you're doing a single employer contract, they'll give you up to $100,000. If you're less than 100 employees, they'll give you up to $50,000 to be able to reimburse, retrain your workers. But it's more of a challenge. And so wherever possible, I try to steer them in the direction of a multiple employer contract through the community colleges, because it's almost brainless. Once they get the form, they fill it out, and like I said, a week later they can be sending somebody through training, whether they have 5 employees or they have 5,000 employees. So these are resources that they should be taking advantage of if they can.
So Ray, one of the advantages of this program, you don't have to send people to a junior college. You could actually do the training in-house.
For a bigger institution, absolutely, absolutely. As long as if they have 10 people and they qualify for the 1584, if they have health insurance benefits, we've done that in several clients. You guys are familiar with some that we've worked with. So yeah, there are a variety of different ways in which they can use this to be more effective.
Yeah, and all you have to do is document these meetings, this training.
Yep.
Then you put that through for reimbursement to the state, and you get your money back.
Right.
That's a great deal.
And I've often said to people, because I've been responsible, fiduciary responsible for the administration on a lot of these contracts, and I've had booklets that are probably this thick, and literally they're worth $100,000. If they lose that documentation, it's not something you'd have to duplicate the whole thing. So we always manage to have them make sure that we have copies at least in 2 different locations in the event something were to happen, a fire or whatever. I've got one here, I've got one there, because it's money. It's to your point, each one of those rosters is worth anywhere from $100 to $500. All right. Now, if they choose to do this on their own, the challenge with this, as opposed to a multiple employer contract, they have to prepare an application, which is something that I do for a fee. It takes anywhere from 3 to 5 months, and the payment of the funds comes after the training, not before. So they have to incur the cost of, if we were, as an example, if the 3 of us were to come in and do consulting on behalf of the client with an ETP contract, they would have to pay us, and then they would have to wait for their money. But they still get it. And once it starts rolling, as you've already pointed out, well, then they keep the money flowing as long as they keep another application in the mill.
Yeah, I found this, when you think of government programs, you think of a lot of bureaucracy at times. I found this program to be very well run. And if you can support your meetings and what you talked about, getting reimbursed from the state makes a lot of sense. And it's not a real onerous type of process. They facilitate this very well.
Yes, I agree. I agree. All right, we're just about wrapped up here, guys, but I wanted you to see a little, This is the reimbursement now. It's actually come down. It used to be 26. They reduced it to 23. For apprenticeship programs, it's 18. For new hire, it's 23. And for standard, it's 20. So for every hour of training, so if you have 10 people in a classroom, you have to stop and think that's $200 per hour that you're being reimbursed to upgrade the skills of your people. So it can be really valuable in that sense. So in order for you to do this, you get to select your students, you get to select courses, you can choose the staff or vendors to conduct the training. You get 9 to 21 months to schedule around heavy production cycles, so you don't have to worry about, hey, we can't do this in the summer or we can't do it in the fall. And you get to select the work hours participants will be trained. Now, the upshot of this is that you have to pay them while they're there. So the offset here is only about $6 an hour because they have to make at least $15.84 to be eligible, and you're getting reimbursed somewhere around 20 to 23. So it still makes a lot of sense given that your investment is in people that you already have and you're developing their skills. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer to the point that I think you were making earlier, Ed.
Yeah, I don't see one reason why someone wouldn't do this if they're running a business that's trying to make money and trying to improve their productivity. I see no reasons why anybody wouldn't do this.
Yeah. So here, the things that are expensive to you. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say save just the simple problem that so many small business people have, which is lack of organization and direction, and not to beat on them. That's what I'm trying to do, is to help them understand that and how to get organized and how to. But the truth of the matter is, there's so many small businesses that don't access these things because they can't even think about a training program, let alone how you're going to pay for it. So, they have to have some drivers in here, which is the interesting tie back. And we can talk more about it, I think when we're wrapped up. But, if you've got a purpose and the purpose is to exit your business and make more money, or just to increase the value of your business, well, here are one of the things you do in order to create value in business. But they're not organized enough because they don't have the drivers in mind, because they don't really have the goal in mind.
Well, and the point you made is that they don't even know this exists, and when they do, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they're going to have free training. And the point is, hey, look, you've already paid for it. If you don't take it, your competitor will.
Well, I also think a lot of businesses don't appreciate the value of training.
Yeah. Right.
And training is where you're going to get innovation, improve processes, improve productivity. And a lot of people, I guess, are looking for more immediate results. When you're doing training, you're looking for more of a long-term positive situation. But it's really definitely an opportunity for businesses out there that are trying to become better and become more effective and more profitable.
Yeah.
Right. So what might be valuable, this is, I don't want to go into any more. These are the issues that I think are important. I did want to focus on one more thing. Is what I've seen in terms of what makes training effective. Let me see. Now, here are the keys to a successful ETP project. First of all, they have to have an ongoing strategic commitment to training. If they don't, my experience, it's a waste of time and energy.
Yeah. So
secondly, the company has to have a history of successful training already. If they already have that, this just falls in very neatly. If they don't, it's amazing how quickly the demands of production can put it all aside. And I've had failures in at least 4 or 5 companies because they just weren't prepared to deal with the fact that they're going to have people out, even if it's only a couple hours a week. The company has a training plan that accurately reflects their tangible needs for improvement. So in other words, part of what we're trying to do as we move forward with them is make sure they understand what it is they need and how this training can help them get there. The company can deliver ETP training and still maintain their production demands. And if they can do that, this is as you've already pointed out, both of you, that this is an incredible opportunity for them to really build up the skills of their staff and reduce their costs, which, as you point out, goes right to the bottom line. You know, every dollar you save here doesn't cost the company a dime. And then finally, company is able to hire internally or maintain ETP administrative requirements. So we can provide this kind of service. Once they get going on it, it's not difficult. As you know, I've already pointed out, Ed, we have a couple clients who do it on their own, and they find it's really simple to follow up on.
I think another relevant factor here is the difference between blue collar and white collar. And white collar people look at things a little bit different than blue collar people.
Right.
And this program helps both groups better understand themselves so that they can better interrelate and integrate on common issues and visions for the company. And I often see the companies at the top, white collar folks, thinking they know how blue collar folks react and understand things and behave, but they really don't. They're so far off. What makes sense to white collar doesn't always make sense to blue collar. And maybe you might add a little bit on that, Ray, because you deal with this very effectively.
So anyway, I hope that helps, guys. You know, I think what I would recommend is that I can, next week, I can show you some of the offerings being offered by both Intech, San Bernardino Valley College, and I might be able to get Norco's, so that anybody watching this can actually see what's available to them immediately. And that would include, Ron, for your purposes, micro giants, you know, small companies with 5 or more employees, and then they have to decide whether they want to set aside the time. The important thing is that the people who attend have to be on the payroll. So I think, having said that, I think that's about it for today. Anything that you guys want to add? Should I go back to the drivers and see what we want to do for next week?
Now, going back to the drivers would be interesting, because there are a couple of other things on the driver 4 that I think relate here, but you didn't necessarily bring them up for the ETP. So we're talking about increased efficiencies, productivity, and quality. And I think it would be good just to kind of talk about how the ETP really integrates with those. Obviously, integrating efficiencies is what you know, a lot of manufacturers like to have a continuous improvement program. And one thing that small business people don't really always deeply understand is what efficiency really means. They want to pay as little as possible for as much production as possible, but oftentimes they don't really think that through and determine, well, so how do I increase efficiencies in my business? You know, we've been through periods of time in the United States where we've had efficiency increases of, you know, 2 and 3 and 4% per year.
Yes.
A little higher. I'm not sure where we are right now, but I'm going to guess that we're more like 2%, 1 or 2%. And of course, not during COVID, but who knows what it is there. But this is where raises come from. If people can do more with less, and you know, you can now afford to pay them more money, so you can be more competitive. You can get loyal people. You can get the best people. So that's a real driver that interfaces deeply with employees and the way employees react to you as the company. So efficiencies and productivity is really a big deal. Quality, then, on the other hand, is kind of the same thing, but normally a continuous improvement task would include increasing quality slightly as you're increasing. So any more that you'd like to say about that? Because, you know, we've got the training, but talk about how the training does this increased efficiency.
Well, I think the point that you're making and what we try to do is that if as I pointed out here, if the company's committed to training in the long haul, and they have a strategy by which they're saying, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve. And to your point, we know we've had 4 or 5 quality issues a month. Let's just use that as an example. So now you've got something the front line can work on, and each time it has a quality issue, you bring that up, you train them on the quality issue, and you start setting goals. Okay, we're going to reduce it to 3 a month, to 2 a month, to 1 a month, and then we're going to try to make it disappear. So, with the continuous improvement, it's always directly related. My observation has been, everybody they don't stay at your company just because they want a paycheck. They're part of a family in some way, whether it's a family with their other frontline workers or somebody else. So the more they understand where you're going and how they play a role in that, and they do, because my experience, nobody is at the company because if they weren't necessary, they would be gone. And so the more we help them understand that, that's where your efficiencies come up. That's where things start to improve. And you start freeing up money that you can turn around and give back to them in terms of increased performance. So it's a win-win.
So that's that's certainly a motivation all the way around. How do you deal with companies that have this seemingly perpetual issue of, well, that's not the way we used to do it, or they just simply are, opposed to change? Change is one of the most difficult things to do, and in terms of human resources, it's one of the most tedious things to solve.
Well, I think, based on my experience, first of all, what I've learned is that if you have 20 companies that are eligible for this, you're going to end up with about 4 or 5 who are both, one, willing to change, and 2, willing to to make the difference. So, the real challenge is getting CEOs who are open to this. And wherever I've had that happen, Ron, it's just amazing the kind of turnarounds you can get in a short amount of time. My favorite is a woman who came in from a marketing position, ironically, of a 6-plant network that all they made is PVC pipe, either for the electrical, water, and irrigation industry. When she got here in Paris, the plant that she was working in was 6 out of 6. And in 18 months, because of the style she used, because of the way she focused on things that were important, the way she helped them, they moved from 6 to number 1. And she was able to do that because she had everybody focused, and we had this ETP money set aside so that she could actually deliver the training. It was amazing to see how effectively she was able to manage this group and bring everybody aboard and get them excited about this because they felt like they were part of something. And part of it was she gave a 15% bonus every quarter based on hitting the numbers. And once they saw that this could happen, they began to find their own suggestions and their own ways to be able to help. And it was just, it's those sorts of things that make what we do feel so valuable, because you can see the change, particularly when you've got a CEO who's open to it, and he understands the ability to change.
Yeah, that's a really nice example. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen very often, but it shows it can be done.
Yes.
And, there's also an indication among those who maybe need a little fire lit under them, because there's always somebody that can come along and doesn't look like a competitor, but then they hire the right person, and all of a sudden they're beating you in terms of
yes.
cost.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really, nobody, ironic, because I got to know the senior management team of this company, and they kind of threw this to her as a bone, say, well, if you want to try this, go ahead. We got nothing to lose. It's the worst company in the network. Well, yeah. It just blew them away when they saw what she was able to do, coming out of a non-technical field. I mean, she really didn't know anything as Ed, as you did, working for the press enterprise, but she knew how to deal with people, and she knew how to motivate them, and she knew how to be able to put the stick and carrot in front of them in a way that was positive.
Well, it's interesting. I think you said she came from marketing, and so she would have been emphasizing communications. And,
yes.
So, it's awfully important, and I think it's easy for a lot of business owners, particularly technical type companies, to put way, way, way too little emphasis on communications. They believe, because maybe they're an engineer or they work with engineers, they believe if you say it one time that it's gospel and everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
exactly.
What it takes is somebody like this person to say, no, wait a minute, I'm not sure that translated to the frontline people. I think we're going to have to meet. We're going to have to say it several times. We're going to have to set the goals, go through the formal process in order for them to really understand what you're talking about. The CEO may have been talking about this for years, but he couldn't get it down to the front line. And so nothing happened. So And that sort of draws us back to one of our previous programs that I'll just mention for any of those who are interested in pursuing this further. And that is that the value diamond model that I presented 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's one of the 4 qualities there is quality. One of the 4 characteristics is quality. And so one of the things that I generally say is that when you look at the other characteristics, they're easier to solve because increasing quality is a very, very difficult task. So this discussion that we've had here highlights how difficult it is to increase quality. And we haven't even talked about re-engineering materials, processes, automation, all of these other things, which are becoming so critically important in order to be able to have success in the future of this digital economy that we have. Yes, we're going to be making things and people will be touching them, but people will be touching robots a lot more than they're touching the product in the future. And so if you don't understand sort of the basics and how to get there, your future might be dismal indeed. It really requires a doubling down effort to solve these problems and stay in business. Despite the fact that we may gain a lot of business from China, there will still be the need to compete with the rest of the world and with other competitors right here in the United States, where automation is continuing to gain speed, so to speak.
I want to share a story from Darlene, as I'll call her. When she first got to the plant, she was the 3rd plant manager in 18 months. And there was a cabal of 4 Hispanic supervisors who literally came into her office and said, look, we appreciate your being here. We want you to know that, if we need you, we'll come and get you. But as for the rest of it, we're running things and good luck, right?
Yeah.
And I called her the Velvet Pitbull. She immediately contacted me and says, we have to rearrange the organization. So she made those 4 supervisors within a month had to have a college degree in order to be in that position. And she changed it from what they were to them becoming a technician. They had to assume a demotion or leave. Wow. 2 of them left, 2 of them accepted demotion, and then she moved forward. And boy, that got everybody's attention because everybody said, oh, wow, she's not just sitting here doing chewing bonbons, And so I think, again, it just goes to illustrate the point that you made. Communication has to, first of all, be authentic, and then it has to have accountability. And once you did that, everybody realized. I can remember another incident. She had a safety problem. And those of you who have been in manufacturing, you understand this particularly, Ed, lockout, tagout, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, these machines are dangerous, right? If you don't lock them when you're working on them, you can kill somebody. Well, she said, look, guys, they had an accident. She said, next time we have an accident, I'm firing the supervisor. And lo and behold, it wasn't more than 3 months later, and one of the guys lost the tip of his little finger, because he hadn't locked out the tagged out machine. Literally, the next morning, she pulled the supervisor in, gave him his pink slip, and said, thank you very much for your service. It was like, it was a shockwave through the organization. Wow. But I guarantee it never happened again.
Right. And so she must have had the complete and total authority to do this given to her by the president of the company and so forth. Because
yeah. I mean, she was given complete authority to run the plant. Yeah. And basically she did it. She was a very effective communicator. Yeah. And she was not at all, she was a very kind and nice person, but she had standards. And if you violated the standards, she let everybody know this was the consequence.
Right.
So anyway, I don't want to belabor this, but we were able with her, we got her over $200,000 of ETP money that permitted her to do this. Without it, she would not have been able to execute this.
Yeah, great story. Great.
So anyway, thank you. Ed, you want to add anything else on this? Where are we going next week?
Well, before we go there, I have a critical COVID question having to do with all of the ETP stuff. There's a chance we're going to be in lockdown for another 6 months, maybe a year, who knows, or at least where groups get together. There are essential industries that are coming together. Number one, do you see these group training sessions continuing in person? Or number two, have they come to the understanding that they could do some online teaching to solve some of those problems?
No, and ETP is now beginning to realize that they have to be more flexible. So I know both Intech and San Bernardino Valley College have reached out to me and asked about Zoom training. So yes, they are looking at alternatives because the social distancing requirements would make classroom training almost impossible.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to double check that, since that's
Yeah, good.
our reality now.
What I can do, if there's value in this, next week I can kind of go over where things are today, some of the things that might be permitted in terms of training as we move forward, and I can bring some of the training that's actually being offered right now for people to start immediately, even in these small companies.
Mhm.
Well, I hope people that are listening to these sessions are getting one point from them, and that is there's all kinds of opportunities for optimizing your business. And I think we all try to guard against what we don't know, because that's what ends up being the biggest risk of all, and
Right.
the loss of opportunity. And these sessions, we're trying to give people the impression how deep and involved these situations can get for opportunities to grow the company. And they're not black and white. A lot of them get into gray areas, but they're very profound and can add a lot of value to your company. So this is a great case that we discussed today, a great opportunity for businesses to take advantage of, and a lot of them don't know it exists. So that's the value of what we're trying to provide, and to me, it's low-hanging fruit and should be harvested as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ed. Having said that, I want to thank both you and Ron for today's session. Speaking on behalf of the three Amigos, the consulting Amigos, I want to thank you for attending. Then we'll begin moving into some of the other 8 drivers that Ed has identified here. We want to thank you for attending, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
See you.